There's a voice inside you that whispers, "Why do I always ruin everything right when it starts to go well?" You take one step forward, and then 2 steps back. You attract something beautiful, and then suddenly push it away. You dream big, but never seem to finish what you start, and you're left asking yourself, what's wrong with me? But the truth is, there's nothing wrong with you. You're not broken. You're not weak. You're not lazy. You're not lost. What you are is carrying something deep, something ancient, something that doesn't belong entirely to you, but lives within you anyway. Carl Jung said, until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life, and you will call it fate. Maybe the pattern that's repeating in your life isn't a coincidence. Maybe your lack of discipline, your fear of success, your constant sabotage is actually a protective mechanism, not from your conscious self, but from a wounded part of your unconscious that still believes it's unsafe to thrive. And that belief didn't start with you. It was inherited, absorbed, modeled, passed down through generations of people who also didn't know how to feel free. Think about it. How many people in your family actually allowed themselves to shine, to rest without guilt, to express themselves without fear of judgment, to love without playing a role, to succeed without sabotage? Probably very few. And that's not a criticism, it's a recognition. Most of our ancestors lived in survival mode, in emotional silence, in cycles of scarcity, repression, trauma. They didn't have the space or the tools to break the chain. But you, too, you're here, you're seeking, you're feeling, you're remembering, and now you're being called to face something essential. Your sabotage isn't a failure. It's a message. It's the way your unconscious protects you from stepping into unfamiliar territory, from embodying a version of yourself that no one around you ever modeled. Because the unconscious doesn't care about your goals. It cares about your survival. And if being fully alive, successful, visible, vulnerable, feels threatening to any part of your inner world, then yes, you will block it. You will freeze. You will push it away. And then feel guilty for doing it. But what if you could look at your sabotage differently, not as proof of weakness, but as proof of where the wound lives? What if every time you stop yourself from moving forward, you're actually getting closer to the core of your pain? And what if that pain isn't just yours? Carl Jung spoke of the family unconscious, a psychic field that holds all the unresolved emotions of those who came before you. Yes, your sabotage may carry your name, but the fear beneath it, the silence, the guilt, the shame, that might belong to someone else. To your mother, who never felt free to be herself. To your father, who couldn't show emotion. To your grandmother, who held back her voice for a lifetime. To your grandfather, who carried the weight of survival and never learned to rest. And maybe now, you're the one who came to break the cycle. But to break it, you'll have to go where no one else in your family ever dared. Into the unconscious. Into the body. Into the memories. Into the patterns that keep repeating. Not because you're weak, but because no one taught you another way until now. Let's go deeper. Because this sabotage that keeps showing up in your life, in your work, in your relationships, in your self-worth, isn't random. It's a message, a signal, a silent scream coming from a part of you that still believes, if I go too far, I'll lose everything. If I shine too bright, I'll be rejected. If I succeed, someone I love will suffer. These beliefs are not logical. They are emotional truths buried deep in your unconscious. And they're not always yours. They're echoes, inheritances, unspoken agreements you made with your environment growing up. Carl Jung called these invisible loyalties. They are the ways in which we unconsciously stay loyal to the pain of our family, our ancestors, and our past versions of self. You might not even realize you made a vow, but somewhere in your body, in your story, in your nervous system, it's still active. I can't be free if my mother never was. I can't be at peace if my father died in rage. I can't be happy if my siblings are still suffering. So you hold yourself back, not because you're lazy, but because a part of you believes it's the only way to belong, and belonging, for the unconscious, is more important than happiness. Because as children, we'd rather betray ourselves than feel excluded. So we silence our voice, we dim our joy, we apologize for our dreams, and this becomes a pattern. You keep repeating the same sabotage because somewhere inside you, you believe that being fully you is dangerous. Too much, too different, too loud, too emotional, too ambitious. And so every time something starts to go right, you pull back. Every time someone starts to get close, you push them away. Every time you begin to rise, you collapse. Not because you don't want it, but because a part of you learned that to be safe, you have to stay small. But what if that part doesn't need to be destroyed? What if it needs to be seen? What if the key to your healing isn't to fight your sabotage, but to listen to it, to sit with it, to ask it questions, to welcome it as a protector, not an enemy, because every pattern has a reason, even the painful ones, especially the painful ones, and once you understand why it's there, you can begin to update the belief behind it. You can say to yourself, thank you for trying to keep me safe, but I don't need this strategy anymore. That's how you reclaim your power, not by denying your patterns, but by making them conscious, by bringing light into the places your family, your culture, and even your past self were too afraid to look at. And that light, that awareness, is the beginning of freedom. But you have to be willing to go through the discomfort, because waking up hurts. At first, it hurts to realize how long you've been hiding. It hurts to see how often you've betrayed yourself. It hurts to notice how much love you've rejected just to stay in control. But after that pain comes power, because you're no longer in the dark. You're no longer blind to your own story. You're no longer on autopilot. You're awake, you're present, you're at the edge of transformation. And from here, everything can change. So now that you're aware of the pattern, what do? How do you begin to transform something so deeply rooted in your history, your nervous system, your identity? The answer isn't force. It's not discipline. It's not pushing through the pain. The answer is presence. Carl Jung said, you don't become enlightened by imagining figures of light, but by making the darkness conscious. So your job now is not to fix yourself. It's to meet yourself, to sit down with your wound without judgment, to feel the weight of the loyalty you've carried, and to begin gently to release what isn't yours, because healing is not about becoming something new. It's about remembering who you were before the world told you who to be. That version of you still exists, beneath the masks, beneath the sabotage, beneath the inherited guilt. And the more you connect with that essence, the more power you begin to reclaim. Let's talk about how to do that. The first step is this: honor the pain you inherited without continuing to carry it. You can say, I see your suffering. I see the silence you lived in. I see the trauma you never had the chance to heal, but I'm not here to repeat it. I'm here to transform it. This is not betrayal. This is evolution. You are not abandoning your family by healing. You are liberating them through your courage, because when you stop the pattern, you stop it for those who came before and for those who come after. You become the turning point. But to do that, you have to give yourself permission to evolve beyond what's familiar. And here's the hardest truth. Familiar doesn't always mean safe. Sometimes what feels normal is just what's most practiced, what's most repeated, what's most accepted in your old emotional environment. If you grew up in a house where love meant sacrifice, then rest will feel selfish. If you grew up where emotion meant weakness, then vulnerability will feel unsafe. If you were taught that attention had to be earned, then simply being seen will feel like a threat. But none of that is truth. It's just training, emotional conditioning. And now you get to retrain your system. Gently, with love, with repetition, with new choices. Because every time you choose yourself, even in the smallest way, you're sending a signal to your nervous system that says, it's safe to change. It's safe to be seen. It's safe to receive love without earning it. And those signals matter. They rewire you. They reroute you. They become the new language of your unconscious. It doesn't happen overnight, but it does happen. And when it does, you'll notice something strange at first. The sabotage fades. The impulse to run lessens. The fear of being seen softens. The guilt for resting dissolves. And in its place comes something quiet but powerful. Clarity. Clarity about who you are. Clarity about what you want. Clarity about what you're no longer available for. This clarity isn't loud. It's steady, grounded, unshakable, because it's not coming from your fear. It's coming from yourself. The true self, the one Carl Jung said is both the root and the totality of the psyche. The you that's always been here, beneath the conditioning, beneath the sabotage, beneath the inherited weight. And the more you live from that place, the lighter you feel. Not because life becomes easy, but because you're no longer at war with yourself. Because the truth is, you're tired. Tired of pretending, tired of chasing, tired of building things just to watch yourself tear them down, tired of being afraid of your own light. And now, more than ever, your soul is asking for something different. Not more effort, not more pushing, not more proving. What your soul is asking for is peace. The kind of peace that only comes when you stop fighting yourself. Carl Jung wrote, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own soul. And you've done it, haven't you? You've distracted yourself, you've filled your time, you've numbed your feelings, you've blamed others, you've told yourself the same old stories. This is just how I am. This always happens to me. I don't know why I can't change." But somewhere deep down, you do know. You've just been afraid to go there, because going there means facing the parts of you you were taught to hide. But now, you're ready, because the pain of staying asleep has become heavier than the fear of waking up. You've started to realize that this isn't just about achieving goals. It's about becoming someone you actually recognize in the mirror, someone who doesn't sabotage joy, someone who doesn't run from intimacy, someone who doesn't apologize for their existence, someone who can hold all of themselves, shadow and light, mess and magic, fear and faith, because that is wholeness. And that's what you've been longing for all along. Not perfection, not control, not performance. Wholeness. The ability to stand in your own energy without flinching, to speak your truth without shrinking, to choose yourself without guilt. And to get there, you don't need to become someone else. You need to come home to who you already are, to the version of you that existed before the world told you who you had to be, before the mask, before the shame, before the fear. That version of you is still there, still breathing, still waiting for permission to return. So give it, right now. Not after the next achievement, not after someone finally validates you, not after you fix yourself. Give yourself permission to come back to your center, to come back to your truth, to say, even with my sabotage, even with my fear, even with my scars, I'm still worthy of love. I'm still worthy of peace. I'm still allowed to begin again. That sentence, that's the spell that breaks the cycle, because most of your life, you've been waiting for someone else to say it, to make you feel safe, to rescue you, to prove your worth. But now, you're the one. You are the adult you were waiting for as a child. You are the voice that can interrupt the old belief. I'm only valuable when I'm perfect. You are the presence that can sit with your fear and not run away this time. And the moment you choose to do that, you begin to rewrite everything. You rewrite everything when you stop trying to get rid of the pain and instead start listening to it. Because the pain you keep trying to escape is not just suffering, it's a message. It's the language your soul uses when the mind refuses to slow down. And yes, it's loud, it's uncomfortable, it burns, but it's real. It's a call to return. Return to the parts of you that got lost in trying to be accepted, in trying to be perfect, in trying to be enough for a world that's never had the tools to hold your truth. And now you're ready to stop negotiating who you are. You're ready to hold space for the child in you who still flinches, for the teenager who learned to numb, for the adult who still doesn't know how to rest. You're not here to punish them. You're here to integrate them. Carl Jung called this shadow work, the conscious choice to meet what you've repressed, not to destroy it, but to finally understand it, to say, I see you, I know you were protecting me, but I'm safe now, and I don't need to hide anymore. That sentence alone can end a lifetime of running, because what you resist inside yourself will always come back louder, more intense, more chaotic. But what you welcome, what you sit with, what you hold with compassion, that's what begins to transform. And that transformation doesn't always look like fireworks. Sometimes it looks like silence, like rest, like saying no for the first time, like crying without trying to stop it, like not needing to explain your healing to anyone, because healing isn't performance, it's permission. Permission to feel, permission to fall apart, permission to rebuild without shame. That's how your nervous system learns safety. That's how your heart opens again. That's how your soul returns to your body. But for that to happen, you need to choose presence. You need to stop trying to outrun the emotion and start holding it like a lost child. Because that's what it is. That self-sabotage you keep doing. It's a child who still thinks pain equals love, still thinks silence equals safety, still believes freedom is dangerous. But you're not that child anymore. You're here. You're aware. You're capable of choosing differently. And when that part of you sees that you're not abandoning it again, it begins to trust. It begins to relax. It begins to let go. That's when real power returns. Not the power to dominate, but the power to feel without breaking, to show up without pretending, to speak without apologizing. That's when you begin to live without needing to be rescued. Because now, you're the one doing the rescuing. You're the one showing up. For yourself. Not just in words but in action. You're the one saying, from this day forward, I no longer need to abandon myself just to keep someone else comfortable. That is the moment your life begins to feel like it's actually yours. And once your life starts to feel like it's yours, you begin to breathe differently. You stop walking on eggshells. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop editing yourself to be more palatable. You start belonging to yourself, not in a loud, rebellious way, but in a grounded, quiet, sacred way. The kind of belonging that doesn't need proof. It just is. And from that place you begin to build something new, boundaries, not walls, not punishment, but energetic clarity. A way of saying, this is who I am. This is what I need. This is what I will no longer accept. Carl Jung said, the most terrifying thing is to accept oneself completely, because that acceptance changes everything. When you accept yourself, you stop chasing. You stop explaining your value. You stop trying to earn rest, love, respect. You realize you were worthy before the story, before the wound, before the sabotage. You realize the pain didn't define you. It revealed you. It showed you what needed to be seen, felt, and finally integrated. That's what healing really is. It's not becoming someone better. It's becoming someone real. Someone who can look in the mirror and say, I'm no longer performing. I'm no longer hiding. I'm no longer afraid of my truth. And no, this doesn't mean you'll never fall again. You will, but you'll rise faster, cleaner, clearer. Because now you have tools. Now you have awareness. Now you have you. You've learned to be your own anchor, to find stillness inside the storm, to walk through the chaos without forgetting your center. And that changes everything. Because now your boundaries aren't a defense mechanism. They're a declaration of self-respect. Now your solitude isn't loneliness. It's sacred space. Now your silence isn't fear, it's presence. And the people who enter your life from here on out, they'll meet a version of you that's no longer desperate to be chosen, but deeply committed to being whole. You'll start to feel the shift in how you relate. You'll notice that certain dynamics don't tempt you anymore, that certain people no longer activate you, that certain environments feel too small for the person you're becoming, because when you heal, your taste changes. You lose the appetite for chaos. You lose the need to explain your worth. You lose the craving for what used to break you. And you gain something far more nourishing. Peace, clarity, alignment. You stop outsourcing your safety. You stop waiting for someone to save you. You stop expecting the past to finally give you what it never could. Instead, you start creating it for yourself. You become the source, and that is the root of freedom. And when you become the source, you stop begging for drops of what you now carry in overflow. You no longer need someone to complete you. You are already whole. And from that wholeness, you start to attract what resonates instead of chasing what depletes. You stop falling for intensity and start choosing reciprocity. You stop mistaking attention for affection and start recognizing that not everyone who shows up deserves to stay. Because now you're no longer desperate to be seen. You've learned how to see yourself. That shift changes everything. It changes how you speak, how you walk into a room, how you hold space for your own emotions without drowning in them. You become the kind of person who no longer needs chaos to feel alive. You start choosing peace not because life got easier, but because you got wiser. Carl Jung said, "We are not what happened to us. We are what we choose to become, and you've chosen to become someone who honors their past, but doesn't repeat it. You've chosen to become someone who listens to their fear, but doesn't let it drive. You've chosen to become someone who knows that healing isn't about forgetting. It's about remembering yourself through the pain. That kind of growth doesn't come from books. It comes from sitting with your own soul long enough to recognize its voice again. And now that you've done that, you can no longer tolerate anything less than truth. No more performative friendships, no more emotionally unavailable love, no more pretending to be fine when your soul is begging to breathe. You've outgrown the life you once fought to fit into, and now you're not shrinking to belong. You're expanding to align. Yes, some people will leave, some doors will close, some old dreams will fall apart, but don't panic. That's just the space being cleared for something real to arrive. Something rooted, something stable, something that doesn't require you to betray yourself to keep it. Because now you know, you're not available for relationships built on your silence. You're not available for success built on burnout. You're not available for love that costs you your peace. You are no longer playing the same game. Because now you remember who you are. You are not a victim of your patterns. You are the one who observed them and chose to break them. You are not the wound. You are the one who walked through it and came out with wisdom. You are not what they did to you. You are what you chose to become after everything tried to break you. And now you're unbreakable. Not because you're hard, but because you're soft and aware. You've learned to bend without folding, to feel without collapsing, to love without disappearing. And that version of you, that's the one who leads your life now. Now you lead from a place that doesn't need to be loud to be powerful. A place where silence feels safe, where solitude feels sacred, where your energy is no longer scattered, it's centered. Because you're no longer running, not from others, not from pain, not from yourself. You're finally walking with your whole story in your hands, not hiding the dark parts, not glorifying the light ones, but carrying all of it with truth. This is what Carl Jung meant when he spoke of individuation, the sacred path of becoming whole, of integrating all parts of you, not just the ones that get applause. And now you've begun that path, not because someone else gave you permission, not because life got easy, but because you got tired of living a life that didn't feel like your own. You woke up, you faced your sabotage, you questioned your beliefs, you met your shadow, you stopped blaming, you started choosing. And now you see you never lacked discipline, you never lacked potential, you were never too broken to be whole. You just needed space, silence, truth, and a little bit of courage to say, I don't want to live on autopilot anymore. And that decision, that changes everything, because it's not about becoming the best version of yourself. It's about becoming the most honest version, the one who no longer hides behind performance, the one who no longer fears rejection, the one who knows that being whole matters more than being liked. And from that place, you begin again. You build differently. You speak differently. You love differently. You stop begging for scraps and start planting roots. You stop chasing outcomes and start cultivating alignment. You stop shrinking and start returning to your full expression. And maybe you don't have all the answers yet. Maybe the path ahead is still foggy. But now you have you, and that's enough. Because when you walk with yourself, you're never truly lost. So take a breath. Feel your feet on the ground. Let the noise settle. And remember, you are not behind. You are not broken. You are not late. You're just now arriving in the one place you were always meant to be. Home. And home was never out there. It was never in someone else's arms. It was never in a future version of you. Home was always the moment you decided to stop abandoning yourself. And now that you've made it back, everything can begin again. And if this message touched you in any way, then please don't keep it to yourself. Like this video, right? Now that tells YouTube this message matters and deserves to reach more people. Subscribe to the channel because this journey continues here, step by step with depth and truth. And if someone came to your mind while watching, send this to them. Sometimes what you share can be the light they've been waiting for. This channel is a safe space for us to grow, heal, and break free together. So you know what to do. Like, share, subscribe, and let's keep walking. The journey is just beginning.